Hello students, today we'll be working on notes 22. This is about parallel lines. What we're going to be doing is first of all looking at the slopes of parallel lines and noticing something about them, and then we'll be writing the equation of a line parallel to a given line. So the first thing that I have on the screen for us is a graph of two lines. I've labeled a graph A and a graph B. So for graph A, we're going to calculate or look at the slope. I have two marked points, and so always starting on the left, starting at the point -2, 2. If we count up 2 and then right 1, we would get to our other marked point. So our slope is up 2, right 1. That would be a slope of 2. We can look at the y-intercept, the point where it crosses the y-axis, and that would be at 0, 6. So our b is a 6. And so remember, our equation is y equals mx plus b. And so we can substitute in and have y equals, and then for our m, we can use the 2. Now, when we're writing it in the equation, we don't need to put it as a fraction unless it is one. And so y equals 2x plus, and then our b value for that graph was a 6, where it crossed the y-axis was at 0, 6. So y equals 2x plus 6. All right, then we're going to look at our second line. It's in red on this graph. We have our two labeled points, always starting on the left. We start at -4. If I count up 2 and right 1, I would be at my other labeled point. So my slope is, again, 2 over 1. Now I have a different y-intercept. It crosses the y-axis at 0, -4. And so for our y equals mx plus b equation, we'll have y equals, and our slope m is 2, and then we'll have x, and our b is negative, so I'll put a minus sign and then 4. So y equals 2x minus 4. So I have a couple of questions for us to look at. The first is, what do you notice about the slopes of the two lines? So as I was counting it out, or as I've got it written, what I want you to see is that the slopes are the same. So the slopes are the same. And hopefully that makes sense, because parallel lines run at that same steepness. So the slopes are the same. And so we will say that these lines are called parallel lines. P-A-R-A-L-L-E-L. It's kind of a hard word to spell. Parallel lines. And that means that they start at different points, but they move the same way. They have the same slope. Parallel lines will never intersect each other. They will not intersect. They will have no points in common. So the slopes are the same. The lines run at the same steepness. They have the same slope. They will never intersect. All right, so this is what we're going to notice about our parallel lines. As we move on to the next part, we're going to be using two of the formulas that we introduced earlier. One is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and we'll also be using the point-slope form, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I'll move us on to our next example. And for that example, we're being asked to write the equation of a line that is parallel to the line y equals 1/3 x minus 2 and has a y-intercept of 0. So I have that graphed for us just to help us visualize what is being asked there. So we have a line y equals 1/3 x minus 2. This is the line drawn in red here on Desmos. Notice that its y-intercept is 0, -2, and I can move up 1 square and right 1, 2, 3 squares and get to another grid mark for that graph. Now, I'm having trouble getting on it. And I'm going to try that again. Actually, I wasn't paying attention to my scale very well. Up 1 and right 1, 2, 3 squares. That's better. All right, so we have this line with a slope of 1/3 and a y-intercept of -2. Now we're being asked to find a line that goes through 0, 0. So notice that 0, 0 is not on this line. So that goes through 0, 0 and that has that same slope. And so we could actually do that by graphing. We could say, well, we could start at 0, 0 and go up 1 and right 3, find another point and draw the graph. We can also do this by using our formulas. So the slope of the given line, if your equation is solved for y, remember that your slope is the coefficient or the number that is multiplied to the x. So in this problem, we have 1/3. And then the y-intercept of the parallel line. Now notice that this is not asking us for the y-intercept of our given line. This is asking for the y-intercept of our new line, our parallel line. And this one says that we have a y-intercept of 0. So that's going to be 0, 0. Remember that our b is this part of the y-intercept. So our b is going to equal 0. Well, for our new equation, we could do, since we know that parallel lines have the same slope, we can use this slope and this new y-intercept and have our equation of our parallel line, y equals mx plus b. We know that the m has to be the same slope as we had for our other line, so 1/3 x, and then our b is from what we were asked for this line to go through. And so when we simplify on an equation like that, when the b is a 0, we can just say that y equals 1/3 x is the equation of our parallel line. And I'm just going to go ahead and graph that so you can see it. So we draw this line, y equals 1/3 x, and then not put the plus 0, 1/3 x, then you'll see that we have this parallel line that does go through the point 0, 0. All right, so we'll move on. We'll take a look at your second example. And for this example, it says write an equation of a line that is parallel to the line 3x minus 2y equals 6 and has a y-intercept of 5. So for this one, it's not quite as easy for us to tell what our given line slope is. So we're going to have to solve that equation for y. So we'll take 3x minus 2y equals 6 and solve that for y. I'll need to subtract 3x, here's my equal sign, from both sides of the equal sign. Now notice that my negative 2y will come down, and I remember I cannot subtract the 6 and the negative 3x because they're not like terms. So we'll write negative 3x plus 6, and then we can divide each term on both sides of the equal sign by negative 2, the number that's in front of the y, the number multiplied to the y. And so we will have y equals, now we have a double negative. Negative over a negative is a positive. So 3/2 x, and then 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. And so this first blank, I'm asking for the slope of the given line. I had to do that work in order to find the slope of my given line, which was 3/2, that number multiplied to x. Now my new line, my parallel line, will have that same slope, but it's going to have a different y-intercept. So I'm asked for the y-intercept of my parallel line. So I'm going to go up and look for that information, and that was given to me right here. The y-intercept of my new line is 0, 5. So I now have a slope and a y-intercept. I can use my slope-intercept equation, y equals mx plus b, and I can substitute in. So I'll have y equals, and remember I want to use the same slope because I have a parallel line. So 3/2, and then x, and my b, my new y-intercept is plus 5. And so your final answer, y equals 3/2 x plus 5. I'm just going to take a second and graph those two lines just to illustrate for you once again what we have found. So clearing out the lines that I have already, I have y equals 3/2 x minus 3. This was my original line. This was the one that was given to me. I had to take it and solve it for y. And then I'm looking for a line parallel to that went through the ordered pair 0, 5. And so I needed a line that is clear up here, parallel to this one. And we found by doing our algebra that y equals 3/2 x. So notice that the slope is the same. Now notice, until I work on this, I do have a parallel line, but it has to go through 0, 5. So I have to add in that y-intercept, and now I have my line going through the 0, 5 as requested. And those are my two parallel lines. And so sometimes you have to do a little work to find out what the slope is of that given line. All right, and then if we'll look at our final example, it says write an equation of a line that is parallel to the line y equals negative 2/5 x plus 7 and contains the point negative 10, 2. All right, now this one gives us a little bit different information. So we have the given line already solved for y, and so therefore we have the slope already given to us because that would be that number I've circled, the number that's multiplied or in front of the x, so negative 2/5. But on our line that's running parallel to this, instead of being given the y-intercept, we're given a random point. We're not given where that line crosses the y-axis. So instead of being given a slope and an intercept, we're given a point and a slope, which means we're going to have to use our point slope equation, which is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity or times the parentheses of x minus x1. And so we can substitute in. We have x1 and y1 in our point right here. Whoops. X1 and y1. And so we can substitute with y minus, and then your y1, which is a 2, equaling, and then your slope, which is negative 2/5. And then we'll have x minus x1. Whoops, excuse me, the x1 we have a value for. So x minus, and then our x1 is negative 10. So notice that we'll have a double sign there. It depends on your instructions as to whether or not you can leave your answer like this. I'm going to go ahead and have us get this to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to continue my work down here because I have more space. So y minus 2 equals negative 2/5. And then x, and this double negative becomes plus positive, so plus 10. We will need to, if we're going to get it to slope-intercept form, need to distribute. And so to do that, we'll have y minus 2 equals negative 2/5 x. Now, you have to take negative 2/5 times 10. You can do that, or you can have Desmos do this for you. And since I've already got the graphing one up, I'm just going to do this calculation right here. So I'm taking negative 2/5 and multiplying that. Need my keyboard right here. I'm going to multiply by 10. Negative 2/5 times 10. And that equals negative 4. So I'm going to go back to my work page. Negative 2/5 times 10 was negative 4. And then I will add 2 to both sides of the equal sign. And remember that your 2 is a like term with the negative 4. So we'll combine those like terms. This will give us y equals negative 2/5 x, and then negative 4 plus 2 gives me negative 2. And so that's what would go in as your final answer, y equals negative 2/5 x minus 2. And again, we'll take a look at a graph for that to show you that the new graph we found actually goes through this point of negative 10, 2. So if we graph, I'm going to clear off what I have there already. And so our first graph was y equals negative 2/5, and then x. And my first one was plus 7. And I'm going to change the settings a little bit here so that you can see what's happening. Let me go up to 15. There you can see that graph. And then we found our new equation, y equals negative 2/5 x, and our new y-intercept was minus 2. I'm going to bring the keyboard down so you can see. So that went through negative 2, but more importantly, what I wanted you to see was that our graph goes through the ordered pair. Let me see if I can get that showing. Negative 10, 2. So we needed it to be parallel to our given line, but going through this random point of negative 10, 2. So these are your examples for finding the equations of lines parallel to given lines. Good luck and continue to ask for help as you need it on your homework.